You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Friday, 17th day of October, 2025. Thanks for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first broadcast is our live training room. Now, that's reserved for members only and those who are taking their 1-week free trial. If you've not yet taken your 1-week free trial, when Michael joins us in about an hour, he'll walk you through it step by step. We'll get your indicators up and indicating today. You'll have the weekend to get familiar with them. Your trial will officially start Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when we open for business each week. And it'll run all the way through next Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. There is no credit card required. You're getting access not just to the live training room, but to everything we offer. We treat you like you were already a member for 5 consecutive trading days so that you can make a well-informed, intelligent decision at the end of your trial as to whether or not trading is right for you. You get a chance to sample it all, to be in the room for the live training. You get the weekly trading zones, you get the logic alerts, the concierge trade alerts, the one-on-one mentoring, the whole 9, everything. And again, no credit card required. So in about an hour, Michael will join us for a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning. And at that point, he'll walk you through step by step how to get signed up for the trial. It'll take you about a total of 3 minutes. So now, when the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break and then come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once, is to go here to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says afternoon broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day, you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In the email, there will be a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it'll automatically log you into our platform. Benefit of doing it that way is you'll have access to the question box so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there'll be days you're out of the office, away from your desktop, but you still want to join live. And there'll be days when you're busy, so you can't join live, but you want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. But all you have to remember is just youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there are over 2,900 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. youtube.com/CFRN. On the left side of the screen, you can see our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. So we'll just go ahead and dive right into our daily devotional. Our current topic is all things together, and we're in day 5 of 5. We'll begin a new topic on Monday. Our scripture today is Philippians 3, verses 1 through 16, and I'll share it with you from the Message translation. Starting in verse 1. And that's about it, friends. Be glad in God. I don't mind repeating what I have written in earlier letters, and I hope you don't mind hearing it again. Better safe than sorry, so here goes. Steer clear of the barking dogs, those religious busybodies, all barking, no bite. All they're interested in is appearances. Knife-happy circumcisers, I call them. The real believers are the ones the Spirit of God leads to work away at this ministry, filling the air with Christ's praise as we do it. We couldn't carry this off by our own efforts, and we know it. Even though we can list what many might think are impressive credentials. You know my pedigree. Now, of course, this is Paul writing. You know my pedigree. A legitimate birth, circumcised on the 8th day. And if you've ever wondered why the circumcision happens on the 8th day, because that is the one day in the life of a human when there's the most vitamin K in the system. It's amazing how science is always catching up to the Bible, not the other way around. That was just a freebie. We'll get back to the scripture. You know my pedigree, a legitimate birth, circumcised on the 8th day, an Israelite from the elite tribe of Benjamin, a strict and devout adherent to God's law, a fiery defender of the purity of my religion, even to the point of persecuting the church, a meticulous observer of everything set down in God's law book. The very credentials these people are waving around as something special, I'm tearing up and throwing out with the trash, along with everything else I used to take credit for. And why? Because of Christ. Yes, all the things I once thought were so important are gone from my life. Compared to the high privilege of knowing Christ Jesus as my master, firsthand, everything I once thought I had going for me is insignificant. Dog dung. I've dumped it all in the trash so that I could embrace Christ and be embraced by Him. I don't want some petty, inferior brand of righteousness that comes from keeping a list of rules when I could get the robust kind that comes from trusting Christ, God's righteousness. I gave up all that inferior stuff so I could know Christ personally, experience His resurrection power, be a partner in His suffering, and go all the way with Him to death itself. If there was any way to get in on the resurrection from the dead, I wanted to do it. I'm not saying that I have this all together, that I haven't made, but I am well on my way, reaching out for Christ, who has so wondrously reached out for me. Friends, don't get me wrong. By no means do I count myself an expert in all of this, but I've got my eye on the goal, where God is beckoning us onward to Jesus. I'm off and running, and I'm not turning back. So let's keep focused on that goal. Those of us who want everything God has for us. If any of you have something else in mind, something less than total commitment, God will clear your blurred vision. You'll see it yet. Now that we're on the right track, let's stay on it. Again, that was Philippians 3, verses 1 through 16. So, as we wrap up this 5-day devotional, All Things Together, today we talk about the continuing on. For years now, I have been practicing the apprenticeship of Jesus and love to tell of the marvels it has revealed. I have looked upon the smiling face of my Heavenly Father. I have looked upon His goodness in the land of the living, in the sound of children running through the house in play, in disinfected hospital rooms and labored last words. I have looked upon His goodness at gravesides and wedding altars, and in an unexpected life of shepherding a people. I have looked upon His goodness in quiet places and heard it in the ringing laughter of friends around dining room tables. I don't know where you are on your life's journey, but wherever this finds you, I pray the thoughts and scriptures we have shared over the last 5 days will come together and catch some heavenly slant of light, that you would see a glimpse of a smiling Father's love for you. May some glimmering of His divine delight meet you where you are. I trust that even now, He is about His unhurried work of defragmenting you, reforming you, inviting you further into the wholeness of who you are to be. Take heart. God is on the move, making wrecked things new and healing wonder-blind eyes. Jesus, the luminary Nazarene, as Einstein once called him, is before all things, and in Him all things hold together. Colossians 1:17. And so whatever may come our way, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, as Julian of Norwich famously said. Now, may the God of peace Himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. He who calls you is faithful. He will surely do it. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. So as we end this devotional, I'll leave you with a few questions to ponder over the weekend. How do you see God on the move in your life? How can you rest more securely in the assurance that He's got your life in His hands? Let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for reminding us that our confidence is not in the flesh, but in knowing you. Help us to forget what is behind and press on toward the prize of your heavenly call. Strengthen us to run with endurance. Keep our eyes fixed on you and live as mature believers, walking in your truth. It's in your name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen and happy Friday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. Start here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. Currently, the Dow is up 242 points. The NASDAQ is up 57. S&P 500 is up 22. The Russell 2000, our man in the street, is down 17. So here we go with the divided markets. In the commodity basket, crude oil up a nickel, trading 57.51 last. Gold down $64.70, trading 42.80 last. That's a drop of 1.5%. Silver down $2.67, trading 50.62 last. That's a drop of just over 5%. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei dropped 695 points, 1.5%. Shanghai fell 76 points, 2%. The Hang Seng fell 641 points, 2.5%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 81, almost 1%. The DAX down 441, almost 2%. And the CAC down 14. So we had a red day in Asia. It was a red day for the UK. And as I mentioned, it is a mixed Radio Friday here in the US of A. Got 3 of the major indices in the green. Not by a lot, but definitely in the green. The Russell 2000 led us to the downside yesterday, but today, maybe it's following the rest of the pack. We'll see. We'll have a better idea by the end of this broadcast. Let's take a look at the global news. Federal grand jury in Maryland indicted former National Security Advisor John Bolton on 18 counts yesterday over his handling of classified information. Bolton is expected to surrender to authorities as soon as today. The charges trace back to Bolton's time working for President Donald Trump. That would be April 2018 through September 2019, before Trump fired him amid foreign policy disagreements. In 2020, following the publication of Bolton's memoir, the Justice Department began investigating notes Bolton allegedly wrote in an AOL email account while at the White House. The department under President Joe Biden dropped the investigation. But Trump's Department of Justice revived it earlier this year. In August, FBI agents raided Bolton's Maryland home and D.C. office, where they allegedly recovered hundreds of pages of classified information, including documents related to weapons of mass destruction. Bolton also stands accused of sharing classified information with his wife and daughter. China has clarified its new export restrictions on rare earths, saying the measures are aimed at preventing the illegal export of critical minerals for military use, particularly in weapons of mass destruction, rather than imposing a full ban. China said civilian exports will continue under license, rejecting Donald Trump's claim that the move violates a trade truce. In response, Trump has threatened 100% tariffs on Chinese imports. China's restrictions, applying to all countries, will take effect in stages beginning November 8th. China dominates the rare earths industry, controlling roughly 70% of mining, 90% of processing, and 93% of magnet manufacturing. The $6.4 billion global market, projected to nearly double by 2035, underpins production of semiconductors, electric vehicles, industrial robots, and other technologies. They are also critical for U.S. defense systems, including the F-35 jets, drones, and radar. The move comes before Trump and the Chinese president are scheduled to meet in South Korea later this month. Now, don't forget about that little company I mentioned to you some weeks ago, LAC, Lithium America. Lithium is needed for a lot of the technology we just talked about. It is considered one of the rare earth minerals, and there are very few deposits worldwide, but there's a big one in Nevada. And when I brought it to your attention a few weeks ago at $3, it made a run up to 10, almost $11, and then when we looked at it yesterday or last night, it had pulled back to like 7 and change. So you just never know, but this one looks pretty important. I mean, the U.S. government is even investing in this company because they need the lithium. Now, I passed on an opportunity to buy Apple at $12 a few years back. Was that probably 2005, maybe? Yeah, somewhere in there. It was prior to the iPhone coming out. All they had was the iPod. And I passed. What a miss. Anyway, life goes on. God's got a plan for all of us, right? So, again, I am not a licensed investment advisor, so I'm not recommending that you buy LAC. I am recommending that you do your own research, your own due diligence, and speak to your licensed investment advisor and go from there. Bidding opened yesterday for the solution to the final encrypted message of Kryptos. That's a sculpture installed at CIA headquarters in 1990. The auction house expected $300,000 to $500,000 until 2 men discovered the message last month. Professional and amateur cryptographers decrypted 3 of crypto's 4 puzzles within a decade, but the final remain unsolved. 79-year-old sculptor Jim Sanborn recently decided to auction the 4th solution to cover medical expenses and support charities. However, the projected hammer price has been thrown into doubt after 2 journalists found the 97-character decrypted message on scrap paper accidentally filed in the Smithsonian's Public Archives of American Art. Neither man plans to publish the solution, but both declined Sanborn's offer of payment for their silence and dismissed legal threats from the auction house. Sanborn previously released clues to the 4th puzzle and has said a 5th message will emerge once the original 4 are solved. The auction closes November 20th. Turning to Wall Street. By the way, some of you may have heard our discussion yesterday about I was using Malwarebytes to do a deep scan. I mean, Malwarebytes scans my machines a couple times a day, just automatically. But a deep scan's a whole different ball of wax. It took, after 9 hours, I thought it was broken. But I Googled and I said, hey, is it natural or normal for Malwarebytes when you do a deep scan for it to take 9 hours? And the response I got back was it can take days depending upon how much data you have, on your hard drives. So 17 hours is what it took. But I guess I'll sleep better, yeah? Got a clean machine. President Trump today said, or threatened, high tariffs on Chinese goods. But he said that the tariffs that he had threatened on Chinese goods were not sustainable, easing fears of further trade escalation between the countries. But that's what the number is, he said during an interview with Fox Business. It's probably not sustainable, It could stand, but they forced me to do that. Trump on Wednesday confirmed that trade tensions with China remain high, telling a reporter who asked whether the 2 countries are headed for a prolonged trade war. His answer was, we're already in one. The president's comments came despite Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent suggesting that an extension on the tariff pause between the U.S. and China was possible. Trump today confirmed that he will meet with the Chinese leader later this month. The 10-year Treasury note is a fundraising tool of the U.S. government. Investors buy what is considered a safe income-producing bond, and the government funds its operations. As a result, 10-year Treasuries are a barometer of the economy. When yields rise, it's a sign of positive investor sentiment for a strong economy. However, when yields fall, buyers are seeking safety and security in an uncertain environment. So you may ask, is it a good investment? What is the yield? Does the 10-year Treasury note have anything to do with mortgage rates? And if so, how? Those are all good questions. The 10-year Treasury note is issued by the U.S. Treasury to anyone willing to lend money to the United States in return for earning interest on the amount the government borrows. Anyone can buy treasuries. Individuals, financial institutions, even foreign governments. The 10-year note is just one version of Treasury notes, which come in various maturities ranging from 2 to 10 years. Interest on the bonds is paid every 6 months until the end of the term, which is called maturity. The interest rate of the note you buy is fixed and never changes. Because Treasury notes are issued and backed by the U.S. government, they are considered among the safest investments available. Now, how does the 10-year Treasury affect mortgage rates? The 10-year Treasury is a reference point for national long-term interest rates, especially mortgage rates. However, home loan interest rates are determined by a variety of market factors, including overall economic conditions, financial markets as a whole, inflation, and interest moves by the Federal Reserve. Yet, mortgage rates and the 10-year Treasury tend to move in unison. If the 10-year Treasury yield moves higher, mortgages typically do so as well, but with a margin of separation. Historically, the spread between the two has been between 1 to 2 percentage points. More recently, that spread has widened to over 2 percentage points. Government shutdown entered its 17th day today, with no end in sight, tying it for the third longest federal work stoppage in U.S. history. The shutdown, the first since President Trump's initial term in office, began on October 1st, after funding bills from Republicans and Democrats failed to reach a key threshold in the Senate. Both sides have remained dug into their positions ever since. Yesterday's vote in the Senate provided the chamber's 10th failure to advance the GOP plan, and then lawmakers just headed home for the weekend. By the time they return on Monday, the shutdown will be in its 20th day. Many of you have asked, how will it end? Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson said, "We have no idea." At the heart of the impasse is a fight over health care for illegal immigrants. Now, I spoke in depth about that yesterday, so I won't go into it again. But while I think everyone, just as a human being, I think everyone should have access to the best health care available. But if someone is in your country illegally, should the government be able to reach into your pocket and take your money without your approval and spend it on the health care of people who have no legal right to even be in the country? Now you could say, well, that's just a humanitarian thing to do. Okay. I'm a huge proponent of charity, Should people be given money to their church, to Samaritan's Purse, to other organizations? Absolutely. But you see, the difference is one is theft by taking, while the other is a decision that an individual makes. They say if you want to know the character of a man, look at his checkbook register. Although not many people write checks anymore. Look at his bank statement. Where's he spending his money? From Bloomberg, Charles Schwab reported third quarter earnings that beat estimates as the firm benefited from a surge in retail investing activity. Never fails, people buy at the top. The firm reported $134.4 billion in total new assets, a 48% increase from a year earlier. That's more than $130.2 billion analysts had forecast for the 3 months through September. Daily average trades grew 30% to 7.42 million, topping the 7.25 million expected by the analyst. Now this one will pop your cork. Authorities in the UK have banned Israeli fans from attending an upcoming soccer match in England over security risk. Following a thorough assessment, we have classified the upcoming Aston Villa versus Maccabi Tel Aviv fixture as high risk, according to the West Midlands Police. So they're going to prohibit any supporters from attending the game. A UK body responsible for issuing safety certificates for games, known as the Safety Advisory Group, made the decision, but is now being asked to reconsider. Former hostage Emily Damari wrote on X, "I am shocked to my core with this outrageous decision to ban me, my family, and my friends from attending an Aston Villa game in the UK. Hamas took Damari hostage on October 7th of 2023. She was released in January and, as a self-described die-hard fan of Maccabi Tel Aviv, an Israeli professional sports club, Damari said she hopes authorities in the UK will come to their senses and reconsider." I do wonder what exactly has become of British society. This is like putting a big sign on the outside of a stadium saying, "No Jews allowed." Wow. Kind of sounds like America in the 30s and 40s and even in the 50s. Before we had a little thing called the Civil Rights Act. Not to be confused with the Civil War. Okay? Those were a few years apart. But you probably know that. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, said Thursday that Democrats bear the blame for the shutdown, as President Trump and his budget chief move forward with identifying federal programs to cut. This is the way the system works. This is Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's decision, is to hand the keys to the kingdom to the president. This is what Johnson, Speaker, told reporters. He has put himself in that situation, and it's completely unnecessary. The president takes no pleasure in this. The government remains shut down after Senate Democrats refuse to provide the votes necessary to advance a 7-week stopgap funding bill. Pretty soon the shutdown is going to be longer than the stopgap funding bill. Without the measure, agencies have begun contingency plans, delaying payments, and preparing to reduce operations. Now, the Senate majority, or the House Majority Leader, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said he will not accept his paycheck until the government reopens. Guess how many Democrats are making that same stance? Well, if any of them are, they sure aren't talking about it. But I'm not surprised. Dozens of Democratic candidates running for U.S. House seats nationwide told Axios they either would not support House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries for party leader or were not prepared to commit to voting for him. The responses suggest growing unease with some parts of the Democratic Party and its current leadership as the 2026 election cycle approaches. Since assuming the role of Democratic leader in 2022, Hakeem Jeffries has maintained unanimous support within his caucus. That unity, however, may be tested in the next Congress amid rising frustrations from grassroots activists particularly on the party's left flank. And you know what? Average, everyday Americans, just plain folks like you and I, who have to get up and go to work every day for a living, and don't get taxpayer-funded junkets to Napa Valley, for a little wine tasting. But we're tired of it. We're sick of it. Of course, there was the debate last night in New York City. Did you watch it? I don't have time to go through the whole thing. I mean, here's a guy who is anti-Semitic. There's an awful lot of Jewish people in New York City. He wants to take away private property. He wants to shut down all the grocery stores and the mom and pop bodegas and have a city-run grocery store. He tries to call himself a democratic socialist. We have a democracy. There's no such thing as a democratic socialist. He is a communist through and through. And if the voters in New York really want to pay higher taxes, really want to have no support for the police, you call 911, and instead of an armed police officer showing up, you're going to get a social worker. Yeah. And of course, he wants to raise the corporate tax rate substantially. All the businesses are just going to leave. That's their right. This is America. Where are they heading? Florida, Texas, where they'll be welcomed with open arms. So, there you go. That's the ticket. All right. Logic 247. That's our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. It's not just E-minis. It's also crude, gold, and silver. We're currently in week 376. That's a little over 7 years. Over the last 376 weeks, we have issued over 20,700 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Valerie did the recap this morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. At the time of the recap, since the markets opened this past Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we've issued this week a total of 69 alerts. 3 never triggered. Still waiting on the outcome of 9. That gives us 57 actionable alerts, of which 8 or 14% would have been stopped out, again based on simple market structure and a very simple process we teach all of our passport holders. I think last week we ended up at 8%, but for the last 7 years the average has been 20% or less being stopped out, and that's spread over 20,700 plus individual handcrafted alerts. Every alert has an entry price, long or short, an initial target designed to help you get your goal for the day, in most cases additional targets, and then a final trade to target. The purpose of the logic alerts is to help you learn how to read a chart. Of course, you can trade them. But the real purpose is to teach you how to read a chart. Please hear that. The real purpose is to teach you to read a chart. If you want to trade for a living, you're not always going to have somebody to give you these alerts or to call out the trades. You got to learn how to do this, okay? That's the whole purpose of why we exist. so that you can learn how to trade. But in order to learn to trade, you got to learn to read the chart. Now, I know you can all read, but when you look at a chart, there's no words, no sentences, no paragraphs, no punctuation. It's a whole different language. And you got to learn it if you're going to trade for a living. The logic alerts can come out, as I say, anytime around the clock. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. Now, 376 weeks is a long time. As I said, a little over 7 years. But years before we had a Logic 247, we had the concierge trade alerts. They're different in a lot of different ways. But for the purpose of this discussion, they don't come out around the clock. They're posted as a static report shortly before the Globex Open each evening. The Friday session that we're in right now began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. And all of our traders had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. The S&P, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. So when we go through the individual markets and you see these targets drawn on the chart, just remember our traders had them 5 minutes before the market even opened. So with that, we'll go to where we always start. The daily chart of the bellwether, the S&P 500 E-mini futures. Now, the pullback, let me say this. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. We call it the BBC. Just stands for bull-bear cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices. Like that. When price crosses above the green line, we're bullish and expect higher prices. But there has to be a confirmation. So see, on this day, April 24th, we closed above. But hold your breath. We need the next candle to open and close above the green line. That makes it official. We've gone from bear mode to bull mode. Okay? Now, as I said, price always reverts to the mean. Our mean is the green line there. Pullback held, pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held. Pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held. And now, I can't remember if we've ever seen this before. This pullback has held for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, it's so scrunched up, I can barely see it. But if today's candle is touching the BBC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be the 6th day that the pullback is held. You see, price can close below the BBC. But if the next day the candle rallies back, then both candles are touching the line. That means the pullback held. The pullback held, right? Now, if we go back to the example over here, notice we closed above, then the following day, we opened and closed above the BBC. We have not had that yet. Because if we're not touching the BBC, again, it's kind of scrunched up with a lot of information in there, but I believe we have touched it. And if we have, yeah, it looks like we just barely touched it. That's the high of that candle. 66.97.5. Yeah, looks like we've touched it. So this is the longest I've seen a pullback hold. I mean, in this kind of fashion. But don't be deceived. You got a high, you got a lower high, you got a lower high. And at today's close, I'm quite sure you're going to have another lower high. Okay. This was last Friday's sell-off, which scared everybody to death. Okay. But I'm telling you, there's more to come. And it's going to be deeper, and it could be violent. Okay. The shallowest possible fib retracement is down here at the 24% fib retracement. To keep the bull healthy, we need to see about a 50% retracement. But what we don't want to see is we don't want to see it all happen in one day. Last Friday, when everybody freaked out, we only got halfway to the 24. I'm telling you, to prevent something really bad from happening, we need a measured move to the 50. But here's the problem. We're moving into the year's end. All the hedge fund managers on Wall Street, their year-end bonuses are going to be based on how profitable they are on the year. That's how they pay for those homes in the Hamptons, right? So they're going to pull out all the stops, every trick they can think of to keep this as high as they can. But at some point, they reach a breaking point, and then you get something kind of like Black Monday, which many of you are old enough to remember. Some of you may have even traded through it. Okay, that was a century and another century and a time long gone. So look how far we opened right here last night, 6 p.m. Eastern. We dropped all the way down here. We had a big red candle. Then all of a sudden we come roaring back to, it looks like, touch the BBC. And so as long as that wick is touching the BBC, then we'll have our 6th day of the pullback held. Okay. So the longer it holds, does that mean it's probably going to go higher? Yeah. Let me just point out, we got a high, we got a lower high, we got a lower high, and today I think we're going to end up with another lower high. So that in and of itself is the definition of a downtrend. But, you know, I'm not going to forecast anything. Just making an observation here. And I've asked you this question before, and I'll ask it again. I asked it last week a couple times. If you own individual, now the indices always come back. That's how they're designed. Okay. But if you own individual stocks, and when the market opens Monday, if that $100 stock dropped to $1, would you sell it? If the answer is yes, you should sell it today. I'll leave it at that. All right, all of the alerts, the Logic 247 alerts and the Concierge Trade alerts, they're all created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes. It's simply the time frame I chose years ago. And they say if it's not broke, leave it alone. The vertical line separates today, Friday. Here's Thursday. Back here's Wednesday. The horizontal lines are the weekly trading zones. Okay. Now, the weekly trading zones are published every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. We've published the weekly zones since December 14th of 2009. That's over 15 and a half years. When price rallies up to a weekly zone, we expect support. When price drops to a zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. When price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. Now, you're only seeing 2 of the zones. There's more zones above and there's more zones below. We kind of been flat here with all this indecision hanging over our head. This little rectangle that you see, I was in a mentoring session yesterday with one of our traders who is learning to read his charts to define market structure. And so we drew in this little window of opportunity during the mentoring session yesterday, and then when the markets opened last night, we had a beautiful fill. That is a 5-point window of opportunity. It only takes 2 points to get your goal for the day. So we opened, we ran up to the black step line, which when it gets directly above price, turns into potential resistance. And down we go to the bottom of that window. Now the zone is 35/36. We didn't quite get there on that move. We caught a bounce off the support. Now what was the support based off of? This low right here. Okay. See that low right there from yesterday? Okay. I was doing the mentoring session in this candle and in this candle right here. So we drew it in and then it filled. Okay. 5 points. Support gave us a bounce. And then we ran into resistance. Notice the high of this candle and the high of this candle. Double top. Okay. So that sent us back down to the zone. All right, sent us to the zone where we found support, just like we did yesterday. The zone's 35/36. It bounced us up to the underside of the short target, and it became resistance, as it often does. That pushed us down to here, 65.70, double bottom right there. See that? Now, notice this. On the way down, the black step line and red and falling were running parallel to one another. And then right here, things changed. The step line went from the left side to the right side of red and falling. When that happens, we expect price to retrace to the BBC. Now, as I say, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't, because it does. Eventually, it will trade through. And when you got a lot of blue and climbing chasing it, that's a good opportunity for it to trade through. And it did. And then we got a retracement. Back to the short target again. Then we got a leg up right here. Right there, see? And then we go back to the BBC. Price always reverts to the mean. The pullback held. Now we have another double top right here. What we've not done is we've not taken out this high right here from yesterday. So until we do that, we're above the BBC, so we expect higher prices. The step line crossed, and we got our retracement to the BBC. Okay. But we failed to take out this high. And we definitely failed to take out this high. Okay. So that in of itself is bearish. The Dow. This was the opening candle last night. We're below the BBC, so we expect lower prices. We hit the short target. We hit the zone. We consolidated. When price encounters a weekly zone, only one of three things happens. 70% of the time is this, consolidation. 20% of the time is rejection. 10% of the time is what we call the slice. Okay? So, we did get below. Now, you can scroll over and you can figure out why today's low. Okay? It's not a spot I would have called for. I would have called for the spot right here. We spiked it a little bit. Okay? But by simply looking left, you know that you're running into an area right here. See where red turned to blue? This is way back on October 12th. You see this low here on October 14th? Okay. So we spiked that right there by just a little bit. Okay. That turned us back up. And the zones that were published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern: resistance, pull back to the BBC, pull back held, and sent us back up to the zone. Again, resistance. Notice as the step line crossed blue and climbing, we got the pullback to the BBC. And now look at blue and climbing. It's starting to kind of arc over. And once that turns to red and falling, look out below. The Russell. The opening candle last night was right here. And 1 hour and a half into the open, we had dropped to 24.71, which was in fact the short target. When the market finds support, it's going to look for resistance. So it bounced, but this area right here where we should have had resistance, it couldn't quite get there. That's a sign of weakness. So down we come, we consolidate at that short target, then we drop. We hit the zone, we catch a bounce up into resistance at red and falling and the black step line. That sends us all the way down here. Okay. These lows here, all you got to do is just look left. People say, how far left do you have to look? In this case, you had to look all the way back to October 12th. Also, you see all of these wicks to the downside? That's an indication that the market's about to head in the other direction, which it did. Now you see all these wicks sticking to the upside. That's an indication price is about to head in the other direction. It's kind of simple once you actually understand how to read the chart. So from the support area, we bounce up back to the underside of the short target. And now we're just consolidating along the zone. Oh, we got red and falling overhead. So lower prices are probably in order. Look for potential support here at 24.45. We got to take out this low of the previous candle. And then this low. And then right here where red turned to blue, that's major potential support. And then right here where you have this double bottom. Okay? But we very well could end up all the way down to this zone by the end of the week. All right. When I come back, we'll pick up with the NQ and cover the rest of the markets. Michael is here. Let me get you so you can take over the charts. Okay, I just made you an organizer, so.
All right.
And there
Looks
you
like I'm
are.
in.
You're in.
Okay.
All right.
This is my son. All right. Here we go. Let me bring it over here. Oops. Yeah, here. This works. All right. Sorry, I was on a wild goose chase.
Oh, no problem.
I didn't catch any geese. Kurt. Kurt S. I emailed you twice from 2 different email addresses with the link to that meeting we're supposed to have an hour ago. Anyway.
Okay,
right,
so I already told you your charts look good, right? I already told you that.
All right,
yeah.
good.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
just make sure. Yeah, let me shut that one off and refresh it, and we should have next week's stuff in here. Next week's stuff in here. Like a couple minutes. I waited for 15 before I sent them all. Anyway, Here is, okay, so if you have, sorry, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, the 17th day of October, 2025. Now, if you have not taken a free trial, let's go here to mytradingq.com, click on the purple button. There is no credit card required for the trial. Click on that purple button. It's going to bring you to this registration page. On this page, all we ask for is your name, your email. Down here at the bottom, give us your TradingView login ID, okay? Give us your TradingView login ID down there. When you do that, we'll be able to enable the indicators for you and get them indicating on your charts. That's where you really want to be when you take the trial, okay? All right, so today we had a really good day today. It ended up being really good. Not so much on the NQ, but on everything else we did. The markets were wild again this morning, and that's why I didn't trade the NQ all that much. Also, no, I didn't trade the NQ much at all. The YM and the gold were traded the most. Anyway, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down to the bottom. We made 45 ticks on the NQ. We lost 40 on the YM. I did get positive on the YM at one point, didn't I? I guess I never did. I guess the YM had my number all day. We were up 144 ticks on gold. We were up on the that put us at $1,865 in the morning session. Today it took 6 minutes and 4 trades to get to $2,350. 10 contracts on, or 235 with just one. We could total 46 trades and we stopped out 7 times. So we got break even or better on 84%, almost 85% of our trades. So on the month now, that puts us at 16,102 over 13 business days, averaging $1,238 per contract per 2-hour business day. On the year, we're at 218,020. That's over 181 business days, averaging $1,204 per contract per 2-hour business day. Following the 2420 blueprint, we got to 2350 after 6 minutes today, so that should have gone up a little bit probably. 2420 blueprint means you quit trading when you get the goal for the day and you add 1 contract per month. Now, Kurt, can you give me your phone number? Because I did not have it in my contacts. I could not find it for whatever reason. I know we were just talking on the phone a week ago, but I could not find it. Anyway, the 2420 blueprint. If you were to quit trading when you get the goal for the day and add 1 contract per month, we're just about at 25 hours on the year right now. 25 hours on the year. If you did it just like me, you should be trading 10 contracts right now and you'd be up $163,747, averaging $6,558 per hour on the year. Okay. Let me break that down. I looked everywhere to find it and I could not find it. I know I just had it because we talked just last weekend. Anyway, all right, so the trades that we actually took, let's get into them. We'll start out with the gold. We took a bunch of trades on gold today. And gold was really wild. I actually stopped trading gold for a little while because it was gapping too much. I don't know if it still is, but wow, Goose Chase I was on here during my break. And that wasn't the one I wasn't you, Kurt. I was sent on a different wild Goose Chase. I stopped waiting for you. Hang on. Wow, see all those bars? I'm holding the thing down and it's scrolling through as fast as it can. So I'm not going to go through every single trade that I missed during the break on this. Wow. That is a lot of bars. We might have wanted to switch off the 9 range at some point this morning. Okay, so here we are. Our first trade on gold was right here, minus 15. All right. Then we had a bunch of trades in there. You see how we gapped all over the place in here. And we had a bunch of trades. So now we're like 13 minutes later, and I had a break even right there. Another break even, and then I stopped out again. That put me at minus 30. So I wasn't feeling really good about gold at that point. Then we got this one. This one we picked up 8 ticks, brought us to minus 22. We had a break even. Then we picked up 25 on that. That gapped. It gave us the goal right away. It was actually, I think we picked up actually 23. It looks like I got the +1 on that. And then the next one All the gaps that are in there. The next one was right here. We picked up 27 on that to get us up to 28. And then 20 something on that to get us up to 53. And 20 something on that to get us up to 79. And 20 something on that to get us up to 104. And from 104 to 129, so that was 25 on that one. Should probably put my bracket out another 10 ticks. We were at 129 at that point, and we had one more. I stopped trading it for a while in here because it was just too wild. I think we had one or two more trades in here. See all of these crazy bars. Okay, we had two more trades. So we went from 129 to 144, and I forgot to put that last trade on. I don't know what it was. No, I don't bother to look, but we're at 144 before this trade right here. And that was probably a 20-tick trade, 25-tick trade. You can see it was just full of gaps during the break and the whole time period there. Let's see. See if I can find my down. Here it is. Yeah, you see it's still got a spread in the gold right now. I'm not going to bother trying to trade that right now. Yeah, I'm not going to go through every trade setup that happens. We can look at the end of it right here and see right here. See, even from right here, from 1300 where I started talking. Right here, we had all these bars. And in all those bars, there was... That wasn't a valid trade. That wasn't a valid trade. We didn't have any valid trades in all those bars. So gold got really crazy on the 9 range today. Right, the YM had my number all morning. That's 2 days this week, I think, that I had my number all morning. I'm going to do the controlling back on this too, because there were a whole bunch of bars in there. Just like, yeah, all of them had a whole bunch of bars. They all did. Scrolling. Here we go. All right. So the first trade here on the YM, we lost 15 ticks on that one. And we picked up 3 to get us to minus 12. Then we lost another 15 to get us to minus 27. Then we break even. Then we picked up 7 there to get us to minus 20. Then I'm sorry. Something's off here. We went from minus 15 to minus 12 to minus 27. Then we got to minus 2. Then we got to 0. Then we got to break even. Yeah, break even was 0. And then we hit this minus 15. So there's something in here that was missing. There's a couple of trades in there that were missing. But from here, we went back to minus 15. We had a break even, another break even, then a plus 5, and then we stopped that again. That put us at minus 25. Then we had break even, and then another stop out right there. That put us at minus 40 on the YM. And that's where we ended it. Now, again, I'm not going to go through every single trade during the break here because there were just way too many. But you can see there were some decent trades in here. If you look for when it came out of the oversold, when it's coming out of the oversold, it happened to be a flat spot. There was one there. One there. Those were all good trades. On the other side, no, on the other side there weren't that many either. But that was it on the YM. We ended up with minus 40 on the YM. Okay, and on the ES today, I think I'll just do the back thing again on the ES. So monitoring curve. I'll check it in a minute and see what you're under in my contacts when I try to enter that number. So if you're in there, but I must have it in there spelled wrong or something. All right. So on the ES, our first trade was right here. was a break even. Our next trade was right here. We picked up 2 ticks on that one, and I have it highlighted there because it wasn't a valid trade, but things were moving so quick I thought it was going to be right, and I am waiting, and it ended up triggering me in, and I just took 2 ticks profit. And the next one on the yes was right here. I picked up 1, that got us to 3. Then I picked up 7, that got us to 10. Then there's a 12 tick trade in here somewhere that got us to 22, and then I stopped out. That brought us down to 12. We had a break even. Then we went from 12 to 16 and 16 to 28. And there's one more 4 tick trade right here, 28 to 32. And that is where we ended it, the ES this morning. Now, looking through here, that was a trade right there. Would have stopped out. That was a trade there. Would have been really close to a stop out. Would have worked out eventually. That was a trade there. Would have worked out. And that was a trade there that would have worked out. None of those went the full cycle. That was a trade there that looks like it would have been a break even. That would have been a decent trade right there. And that was it, the yes. Okay. All right, so with the yes, we ended up at plus 32. Now the NQ, we didn't have that many trades on the NQ. It's on a 47 range right now. We started out with the 19 range. We'll go back to the beginning. But we started out with the 19 range. And so if these don't match up with anything, yes, we had a couple of break evens on the 19 range. And then we had, it's like our first, it was a plus 46 is what we got on our first winning trade. And then the one right after that brought us up to 77. It wasn't from this time frame though. After that, I had changed it. That was from the 19 range. We had a 46, and then we had whatever it takes to bring us up to 77. And then we had a break even there. And we picked up 8 ticks here to get us to 85. Then we had a break even, then 20 ticks there to get us to 105. And then right there around the 47 range, so that was a 60 tick stop out right there. Went from 105 down to 45 right there. And that was where we stopped trading it. Now during the break on a 45 range, on a 47 range, sorry, on a 47 range. Remember on the 47 range, the stop is 60, the bracket is 60 by 75 on that. So I didn't get any 75 tick wins, but it looks like there would have been one right there. One right there, so 2 of them right there during the break. 3 of them during the break. 4 good trades during the break. Four good trades during the break. And that was it on the NQ. All right. Yes, so that was it. Now let's go here. If you haven't taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Just click on that purple button. It's going to bring you to the registration page right here. Just fill it out. Right, fill that out. Make sure you give us everything we need on that page to get your indicators indicating on your desktop. And we'll be happy to do so. All right, so gold almost has a trade here. It's too far away now. The YM doesn't have a trade. The S doesn't have a trade. The NQ doesn't have a trade, but the YM's almost got a trade. Oops, I didn't do that. Cancel all. There it is. The YM almost has a trade. It just needs a down close. Okay. Cancel. Oops. We need the down close there on the YM. Okay. And we need a down close on the ES. We didn't get it on the YM yet, but it could still happen. We need a down close on the ES. So that could still happen. The NQ needs to hit the midpoint and give a down close. So there goes the YM, there goes the ES. They both just hit. That one didn't go to break even yet, but I think this one did. Now this I'm going to lock in something. I'm going to lock in something over here on the yes. I'm going to lock in 4 on the yes. And we have 6 on the YM and 4 on the yes. The NQ didn't end up being a trade. I'm going to lock in 8 on the yes and 10 on the YM and 14 on the YM and 8 on the yes is what we ended up with. No, actually, we ended up with more than that on the yes, it looks like. All right, so 2 trades. But you see how fast all that was? That's how it's been all day today. That's how it's been. We didn't have any time to dawdle around today like we usually do every day. Let me see what I actually did get on that ES. I don't know what I got on that. On the ES, it was ETFs. Okay, and the YM was YM. YM was 16 ticks, it looks like. Okay, so the YM is about to set up again right here. The ES is also about to set up again right here. They're both getting too far away now. The YM is definitely too far away. I'm canceling that. The ES is also too far away. I'm canceling both of those trades. They're both going to hit the YBR and flip it, I think. The NQ is on its way to flip the YBR too. So if we go back here and look at this, all right, we're still below it here on the ES. We need to close the day up above all that. If we don't close the day up above all that, it's going to make for a long weekend. Oops. All right, we could get something here on the gold, but as I said, the gold is just so thin. You know, earlier on the gold, if you saw a big number up here on the gold or down here, it would almost immediately go to it. That's how gold was reacting earlier. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Anybody? Questions? That's not a trade here on the gold. We didn't get into the result. It hasn't gone full cycle. These other markets don't really have anything either. We need the up close here on the YM. So just need the up close on the YM. The ES hasn't hit the midpoint yet, so we need to hit the midpoint on that. The gold needs to hit the midpoint and give a down close. It hasn't done that yet. The YM could still be a trade on an up close. The gold is not a trade now. The ES could still be a trade if it hits the midpoint and gives an up close. Need the up close on the ES. Need the up close on the YM. There it is on the YM. Here it is on the YM. And there it is on the ES, and here it is on the ES. Okay, so again, 4 ticks on the ES, and the YM hasn't gone break even yet. So we're out with 4 more on the ES. And the YM still hasn't gone break even. I'm just got a horrible fill on that. And yeah, 4 ticks slip on that. Otherwise, my stop would have been break even already. All right, and we stopped out on the YM. A better fill and I would have to break even on that. But it is what it is. This didn't go full cycle here, so this is nothing right now. This didn't go full cycle here either. You did that. So we wait a few minutes. Jake, are you in here right now? Jake is not in here. It's my pseudonym right now. My son's name. All right. We need a down close on the gold. Down close on the gold to be a trade right now. Still need that down close. Still hasn't happened. There it is. There it is. All right, stop just went to break even automatically. Gonna lock in 12. And we got all 25 on the gold. All right. Nothing else is really giving us a trade right here, right now. The gold did not come out of the overbought on that last one, which is kind of weird. If it gives a down close now, it won't be off the midpoint, but it will come out of the overbought. It's kind of a weird situation there on the gold. But there, just took it anyway. My stop's a break even again. Here it is. Look at a tick. And I'm gonna lock in more than a tick. 10 ticks. Okay. All right. We have a minute and a half left. That's enough time to get like 3 more trades the way the markets have been going today. The NQ didn't make it into the overbought here. It looks like it's going to fail right there. The gold needs a down close from where it is. There it is, down close. Did I get filled? I didn't get filled. Okay, I didn't get filled on that one. Sorry. And that down close. If we get a down close here, it's going to be another weird one like that one a minute ago. I didn't get it. It went really fast, and I wasn't able to put it on the gate. This up close right here is not actually going to be a trade. I know it looks like it's coming out of the oversold, but it came out back here on this one. That was below the midpoint. Okay, so that's not a trade on the ES. And it just flipped wide the R anyway. All right, so let's see what number comes up when I put that into my contacts. Cancel. Contacts. It is that. Oh, wait, I'm looking at her. It doesn't come up at all. Did I type it in right? I did. Okay. All right, now you're in there. All right. Well, it's time, guys. It is time for me to wrap it up at this point. It is 1:30. We're about to have another trade here on the gold. Let's just set it up and see if we get it. There it was. There it is. Here it is. And it's a 15 tick stop. We'll see where it goes. It just bumped my stop to break even. I'm going to lock in. That's 6 ticks right there. And 10 ticks. says 10. I don't know if I actually got 10. That's it. So we had a bunch of trades here on the gold. Everyone was a winning trade. We had like just in gold alone. We had a 25, a 25, and a 10, I think. That's like $600 worth, or $6,000 for 10 contracts. We had a stop out on the YM. We had a couple of winning trades here on the ES. 16 ticks on the ES, I think. And I don't remember doing anything on the NQ. That is where we're going to wrap it up for this session and for the week. So this is how it ended up this week. We had all these up. Let's just do this. There. And we'll just sum it in the next one. $7,725 this week. Not bad. So it was a good week. That's how I'm going to wrap it up for this week. It was really volatile today, particularly, and yesterday. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required for the trial. Go to the purple button, click on it. It's going to bring you to the registration page. Just register. Give us a TradingView login ID. If you don't have one, click on this to go get one. Okay, and give us that TradingView login ID. Right, and that's it. That's all I got. With that, I can pass it back to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. It's way overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. He's ready.
Okay. Recap of the recap of the morning session.
Today it took 6 minutes and 4 trades to get to $2,350.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, when you got your most recent computer, did you have to install did you have to buy a malware bytes for that machine, or did you have a license that covered multiple machines?
I think I don't know. I have 2 licenses.
Well, I have a license they don't even sell anymore. It's lifetime, and it covers 3 devices.
Really?
They don't even offer that anymore, yeah.
Okay.
But
I don't have that.
When I'm trying to put it on the new laptop, during the installation process, I mean, I was able to log in. It recognized who I was and all that. It says, "Hey, Dwayne, how you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. And then I get a pop-up, and it's just blank. The pop-up is blank. So
I think, I mean, I know I installed it on this computer. I think I had to go out and get another license for it, though. Yeah. Because I think I had 2. I kept my other computer that I had before this one. That's my backup. It's right here now. So I had that one, and I had my other laptop, but I got a second laptop this year, a second laptop this year too. So I got 2 new computers, and I still have it on my old laptop, and I have it on my new laptop, and I have it on my old computer, and I have it on my new desktop. So I had to go buy another license because I only had 2 at a time, I think. That's what I had gotten.
Okie doke. All right, well, I was just checking because I'm getting ready to converse with the with the bot on the Malwarebytes site to see if we can get it resolved. So
yeah, well, I mean, you might be able to just buy another license with whatever you got. I think for some reason I got a second.
It clearly says when I log in on the laptop, it says you're currently using Malwarebytes on 2 devices. You still have 1 more device available. So I click OK, install it, and then it gives me a pop-up, but the pop-up's blank. Doesn't say anything. So anyway, I'll try to figure it out with Malwarebytes support after I'm done. All right, guys, have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, too.
All right, guys, we left off with the NQ. If you missed any of today's broadcast in about 45 minutes, you can go to youtube.com/CFRN and watch the entire broadcast in its entirety. Now, this was the opening candle last night. The vertical lines, of course, separate today, Friday from Thursday, Wednesday. This was the opening candle last night. Down we come to red and falling. When red and falling gets directly below price, it quite often becomes support because it's on its way to becoming blue and climbing. Okay, and so it took price right back. Remember, price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's called the BBC. And the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Right there. Now, we know eventually it will trade through. But in this instance, pullback held. And that sent us right back down to the short target. Okay. We then traded through the short target and continued on down. Okay. To this low here. And if you take the time, you can, on your charts, you can scroll left and you can figure out why the market found support here. Okay. You'll notice on the way down, the black step line and red and falling were running parallel to each other. But right here, that changed. The black step line crossed red and falling. When that happens, we expect a retracement back to the BBC. This pullback held, this one did not. It traded through. And so we got a leg and a retracement, a leg and a retracement, and as you can see, the pullback held. And where do we find resistance? At the weekly trading zone that was published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, 24,975/976. Didn't quite get all the way to the long target. Now we've already covered the ES, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil. Here's where we opened last night, and by 2200 hours, we had dropped. Now, if you were never in the military and you don't know how to read military time, you take that 22, see that down at the bottom of my screen, subtract 12. It's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock last night. During the 10 o'clock candle, we hit the short target. Okay. Support will always send the market looking for resistance. The pullback held. Resistance will always send the market looking for support. Short target. Then we bounced up into resistance, and we had another pullback held. It held there and it held there. This time we bounced into resistance at red and falling, and we couldn't get through red and falling. So we took a little more of a dip. Now you'd have to scroll way back to find a price lower than that. But can support bounces us up. Now the first attempt, we didn't get through. We got it almost to the zone. Missed it by maybe a tick. 3 ticks. We backed up, got a running start, and we managed to get through. And then we put in a high right here. Okay. Which, if you look over here, you can see why. That sent us back down to support at the weekly trading zone and the BBC. Remember, when price drops to a zone, we expect support. When it moves up to a zone, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. And since that happened at 7 a.m. Eastern this morning, we've just been consolidating sideways. Only one of 3 things happens when price encounters a zone. 70% of the times consolidation, 20% of the time rejection, 10% of the time the slice. That's when a 30-minute candle slices through a zone like it's not even there. When that happens and that move runs out of steam, price will typically retrace back to the zone it sliced through and then continue in the direction of the slice. Now we've consolidated so long that blue and climbing has turned to red and falling. So one of 2 things has to happen here. Price drops and 65 to 55, that's cutting it a little close. I probably wouldn't be interested in that. However, if price can power through red and falling, that's pretty bullish. But you see all these wicks sticking to the upside? That's bearish. So I would want price to get all the way up to 57.35, and then I would be willing to trade it to 57.45. It's enough to get your goal for the day. Now, if it can get through this high right here at 57.45, then the next spot would be 57.70, where I would expect resistance, and then the long target based off that high right there, 57.95. Gold, which has been on an incredible mega rally, has now retraced all the way back to the highest weekly trading zone. Earlier in the week, we got above the highest weekly trading zone. Remember, this is Friday, this is Thursday, this is Wednesday. Wednesday, we got above the highest weekly zone. And then yesterday was a big rally day. And then last night when we opened, we dropped to the BBC. We spiked it. This was a red candle all the way down. But the pullback held. See it? And so we go back up to put in our quadruple top. And then we get a retracement to the BBC. Then we put in a lower high. Okay, blue and climbing turns to red and falling. And guess what? We consolidate at the BBC. We get a bearish cross. Then we get a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement. So right here, we hit the short target and we bounced. So last night when the market opened, we opened at 43.48, and from 48 up to the target 62. So that would be $1,400 per contract traded. That's just up to the target. As you can see, it went substantially higher. The high was 43.92, all-time historic high. And you get a double top up there, and now we come all the way back down to the highest weekly trading zone for this week. Now, based on the last 15 and a half years of history, when we get above the highest weekly zone or below the lowest weekly zone, anytime during the week, by close of business on Friday, we expect price to be back to the zone, in this case, the highest zone, or below. So what happens between now and the close? Maybe we do close at the zone or a little below, or maybe this week, we actually close a little bit above it. But that won't change anything because our results have been pretty consistent since December 14th of 2009. And last but not least, another sad story, silver. Silver got hurt worse than gold. Silver ran up to the long target in the first 30-minute candle. It opened at 53.43 and to the target 61. So conservatively $1,000 per contract traded, but it went substantially further. Went up to 53.76 half. Then we come down. We trade through the BBC, and this is the highest weekly trading zone for silver. We catch a bounce, and right here, where blue turned to red, there's your resistance, okay? Right there. And down we go. We hit the zone and bounce. We hit the zone and bounce. We hit the zone and we bounce. The pullback to the BBC held has sent us down through the short target, almost to the next zone down. The low so far, 49.66. Now, notice that on the way down, the black step lines on the left side are red and falling. It's now crossed over to the right side of red and falling. When that happens, price will typically retrace back to the BBC. Okay. And again on the daily, it's hard to see in this cluster here, but it looks like that wick touched the BBC. So, as you know, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Here, 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 here. This pullback has held for 6 days. Now, you might say, well, how can you say that? Look at all this action down here below the BBC. Here's the key. Every one of the candles is touching the BBC. As long as it's touching, even Sunday night when we had, this was Friday, okay, and we had a gap higher open Sunday night, we opened below the BBC, but we touched it during the day session. The next day, the next day, the next day, and I'm pretty sure today that wick has touched the daily BBC. So the pullback is now held for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Even if price were to just sell off going into the close, if we touched, all we got to do is touch it, then the rules as they've been since 2008 is that it held, pullback held. Think about it. Could have a huge red candle, pullback held. Now, what needs to happen for the market to continue higher? Well, we got to overcome the BBC. We got to overcome the black step line. We got to overcome red and falling. That's like resistance times 3. Throw in the 24% fib extension and you've got resistance times 4. So that's quite a feat with Trump's rough talk about tariffs and China and the fact that the Democrats won't sign on the dotted line to get the government opened back up. You know, if you're on the left side of the aisle, you should be calling your congressman, your senator, and you should be saying, sign the darn bill. I believe all people should have access to the best health care available. But if someone is in my country illegally, then it should be illegal for you to reach into my pocket and take my money to pay for their health care. Now, if they're here legally, that's a different issue. If I go break into some country, am I to expect them to put me up, give me a... They're in California and Los Angeles, man, it's like a mecca for illegals. They're going to give you a paycheck. They're going to give you a place to live. Man, it's the life of Riley. While we have Americans going to bed hungry, losing their homes because they can't make their mortgage payment, or their apartment because they can't make their rent. So the left is so concerned about all these people in our country illegally. Dear God, come to your senses and take care of the people who elected you. And once you've taken care of them, if there's anything left over, then take care of those other people. You're robbing Americans of their quality of life, and it's wrong. I don't care how you look at it, shake it, blend it, it's wrong. Call your congressman, call your senator, tell him, vote yay. Now, they've already gone home for the weekend. Many on their private jet, to their gated community. Huh. This lady in Virginia, she's like surprised because suddenly in an interview they go, "So you made $7 million trading stocks since you've been in office?" And she's like, oh, I did? Now, if $7 million showed up in your Bank of America account, would you notice or not? Well, I guess I'd have to ask my husband. I don't know. Well, I'm sorry. Excuse me. You were sanctioned and fined, but you don't know. Maybe these are the last days, guys. I know folks been preaching that since the days of Paul. But maybe it really is finally here. So, I would be amiss if I didn't encourage you. If you're not right with God, get right. You don't have to clean up your act. You don't got to quit cussing. You don't got to quit smoking. You don't even got to quit drinking. Jesus died for your sins, and God will accept you as you are right now. So I'd stick away all your excuses. So, I'm hanging out in the bars and I'm smoking and I'm doing drugs and God's going to accept me. Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah, but Christians are supposed to lead these perfect lives. I don't know a single perfect Christian except Christ. Okay? See, it's when you surrender to God, that's when the Holy Spirit can move in and clean you up from the inside out. That's how it works. See, so many of these religious figures in the world today, so many of these very religious denominations, if you show up on a Sunday morning, dirty, filthy, reeking of booze, they'll escort you outside. When in fact, they should escort you to the very front pew and place you in a seat of honor. Jesus didn't come to save the well. He came to save the sick. So wherever you're at in your walk today, get right with God. All you got to do is just say, Lord, I know I've lived a wretched life. I'm living one. But I believe that you created the world in which I live, that you created me. I believe you sent your son to die for me and for my sins. Jesus, I accept you as my personal Savior. I know I'm a mess, but that guy on the internet said you'd clean me up. So, and that's it. You've done your part now. Let God do his part. He hung the stars in the sky. He tells the tide how far to go out and where to stop when it comes back in. If he can do that, I think he can fix you. To whatever degree he wants to fix you. Okay. All right. We're definitely pressed up at the high of the day. We got to be banging that daily BBC at this point. So, the shutdowns and it's, what did I say earlier, 15th day? And the pullback is hell now for 6 days. Ain't that something? All right. Want to become a member? Email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. Just tell her you want to become a member. She'll send you the information you need to get signed up. Once you're all signed up, she'll send you more information. A lot of it you won't even know what to do with. create a folder in your email client. And every email she sends you, just put it in that folder. Even if you don't understand what it is or what you're going to do it, just put it in the folder. Okay? Because as you begin your learning journey, you're going to need everything she sends you at some point along the way. And the good news is, if you do what I said, whether it's the middle of the night, the middle of a weekend, or even on a holiday, when you need that information, you'll know right where it is. It's in that folder you created. Once you become a member, you're going to get 2 hours of live training every trading day. It's an interactive environment. On top of 2 hours of live training every day, you get private one-on-one mentoring. All you got to do is ask. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. So if you're thinking, well, yeah, you guys do futures and that works for you, but that won't work for me because I trade stocks or I trade Forex or whatever. No. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. I showed it to you today. I show it to you every day. And if you go to youtube.com/CFRN, there's over 2,900 daily episodes where I've shown you the exact same thing. Price moves from support to resistance, back to support. It's just how markets work. Not a mystery. I guess they try to keep it a secret so they can sell you a million different things. But once you understand the basic rhythm of the market and learn how to read the chart and just use our humble set of indicators, that's all you need. As a passport holder, you'll get the Logic 247 alerts. Round the clock, they help you learn how to read the charts. We're in year 7 of Logic 247. Over the last 7+ years, we've issued over 20,700 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Make sure you use those logic alerts to learn how to read the chart. Of course, you can trade them, but the real purpose of them is to help you learn to read the chart, because one day there won't be alerts. One day there won't be somebody in the room calling out trades for you. Once you learn to read the chart, once you learn how to trade, that's something nobody can ever take away from you. As a passport holder, you're going to get the weekly trading zones every Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. You'll be able to attend the members-only workshop every Thursday night. And you'll get the golden keys that open all the private channels in Telegram. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. How low? $5,000. $49.97 to be exact. Now, when you think about how much time and treasure you've spent trying to learn how to trade, that's probably a mere pittance. So you can grope around in darkness, or you can hire somebody to show you the way. And unlike the places that, cash your check and say, see ya, CFRN's been here since 2005. Our live training room in the current form hang on, I'm sorry. There's a text, I had to reply to that one. Sorry. So again, ball's in your court. Okay. If whatever you're doing or been doing hasn't worked out, I know you've been probably burned, you've been lied to, you've been given a lot of false promises. We don't give any false promises. We don't promise you anything except what I just went over. From the live training every day to the indicators to the alerts, yeah. And when you need help, you have access to private one-on-one mentoring. Nobody else does that I know of. Hang on one second. So once again, everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. All right, let's wrap this week up with a good word for the God's answer to anxiety. Anxiety has become like an epidemic in America. Philippians 4:6 from the Amplified Version. Do not fret or have anxiety about anything, but in every circumstance, by prayer, make your wants known to God. Anxiety is the curse of the modern era, but it's not a new trend. Throughout Scripture, Jesus talked a lot about anxiety, stress, and fear. In fact, he mentioned them repeatedly in his teachings. In Matthew 6:25, he said, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? Again, that was Matthew 6:25. Now, Jesus didn't just say these words to relieve our fears and worries. What he was doing was commanding us not to be anxious, because it demonstrates a lack of faith in God's faithfulness to us. Paul writes in Philippians 4:6, do not fret or have anxiety about anything, but in every circumstance and in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, make your wants known to God. And God's peace, which transcends all understanding, shall garrison your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Instead of letting fear and anxiety control you, you can have peace by bringing your worries to God in prayer, thanking Him by faith for the answer, and trusting Him to work things out as only He can. So, what are you going to do? Worry and fret, or pray and have peace? The choice is yours. And that's our good word for today and for the week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.